So after many, many months of waiting, we finally have the trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And boy, I have been waiting for this trailer for so long. And we might have my most anticipated movie for the remainder of 2024. It was pretty high up there anyway. I mean, I love these films, and this was already one of my most anticipated movies of the year regardless. But after seeing this trailer, it's just ensured to me that this movie is going to be doing everything I wanted it to do. And as a Sonic fan, I am immensely satisfied by what I've seen here in this trailer. So no long intros, no wasting time, let's get straight into it. Let's talk about Shadow. Shadow was of course teased at the end of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 in the post-credit scene, and we all knew from that point forward that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was going to be taking place around the time of Shadow, and I was just so happy with this. Shadow is one of my all-time favourite Sonic characters. I love the guy. I grew up very much in an era where Shadow was very prominent within the Sonic franchise, so for me, Shadow has always been a top-tier Sonic character. So the fact that now in this third film we're finally getting Shadow realised, I am really excited. Design-wise, Shadow looks absolutely spot on. They've really got the design absolutely perfect. Of course, these Sonic characters have all looked really good throughout all these films. Of course, we really dodged a bullet with the original scary Sonic design from the first trailer. But to the team's credit, they fixed it, and every single creature design we've had in these movies since then, from Sonic to Tails to Knuckles and now to Shadow, they just look fantastic. And Shadow's design, he obviously takes a lot of elements from Sonic, but he's got his black fur is on point, he's got the red streaks throughout. I also really love the fact that they've got his boots right, because his boots are one of my all-time favorite things about the character. I loved his boots, especially as a kid. I thought they just looked awesome, and they've got them spot on here. I just think that Shadow, in terms of his design, is exactly what I wanted Shadow to look like in these films. He looks very much in line with the games, but he also looks in line with the character designs of the movies. They've got it absolutely spot on. Now, this trailer does give us a good look at Shadow's backstory. Now, Shadow's backstory in the games is really dark and kind of convoluted in a lot of ways, but I do think in this movie they're going to kind of strip down his backstory and simplify it a little bit. I don't think they're going to be including any of the stuff with the Space Colony arc and the Ancients and all that stuff, because I think that's just way too much for, general audiences to comprehend, and it's something that the movies haven't set up or established in any way, so I think they're going to ignore all of that stuff. But I think what is going to be focused on is, of course, Maria and Shadow being an experiment from the government. I think that's what we're really going to see here. I think his backstory is going to be that he was this kind of genetic experiment created by Dr. Gerald Robotnik, and he's going to escape the facility he's being kept in following the death of Maria. And I think that is what we're going to see within the movie. Whether we actually see Maria die or not is a different question. Obviously, this is a kids' movie at the end of the day, so they're probably not going to go, that dark with it. But Maria is in this movie. We see her in this trailer. We know she was cast in the movie a little while ago. So Maria is in this movie. She's definitely going to die because we basically see it in the trailer. So it's just a question of how far will they go? And just another little message on Shadow. I really love how his powers are looking in the game. Of course, in the games, we do know that Shadow kind of has these teleportation powers with his Chaos Control, and we see that realized on screen here when he's fighting a few gun agents. We also see it when he's fighting Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. He's just zipping all over the place. That is Shadow's powers. Perfect. And also, they gave him the bike. I was so happy they gave him the bike. Again, in the era of the Sonic franchise that I grew up in, I very much grew up in the time of Sonic 06, Shadow the Hedgehog, that kind of era. So for me, Shadow having a bike was kind of a part of his personality. So seeing the bike here, I was just so happy. It looks great. I love the way he uses it. I just think it's fantastic. So all in all, for Shadow, he is just amazing in this trailer. I can't wait to see him on screen. Just such a perfect adaptation. And I think when you look at the director of this movie, it speaks for itself. I mean, Jeff Fowler, who is the director of the Sonic trilogy, he spoke the other day on Twitter saying that he was actually an animator on 2005's Shadow the Hedgehog. And I think that's just such a cool little story. The fact that he started his career with Sonic doing the animations for Shadow the Hedgehog back in 2005 for Sega, and he's now directing the live-action Sonic trilogy, and he's now being able to bring Shadow into the movies. I think it's just such a beautiful full circle moment, and it makes so much sense why these movies have been so authentic and so loving to the games. Is because they are being made by people who truly love and respect this franchise, and it's lovely to see. And of course, we do hear Shadow's voice in this trailer. We hear Keanu Reeves as Shadow. Now, he doesn't have a lot of lines in this trailer. I imagine that Shadow isn't going to speak that much in the movie because Shadow is a bit more of a silent type a lot of the time. But that being said, what we do get, the little glimpses of Keanu, perfect. I think Keanu is the perfect casting choice for this. I know there were a lot of other names that were thrown around at the time, like Robert Pattinson and Hayden Christensen, and I do think both of those guys would have done a good job. But I think just in terms of what they're going for with this, and I think, just in terms of like purely the voice, Keanu is absolutely spot on for Shadow, and he sounds amazing in this trailer. Now, enough about Shadow. Let's talk about the other big thing in this trailer, which I absolutely loved, which is the return of Jim Carrey as Robotnik. Now, of course, Jim Carrey said that after Sonic 2, he was retiring. He was done. And then Sonic 3 comes around, and he goes, actually, you know what? I'll do Sonic 3, and all the respect to him, because he's so good in these movies. He's such a treat. He's such a delight. He's so funny. And I love his portrayal of Robotnik. I remember when he was cast as Robotnik originally for the first movie, I just thought, what? But then we got the movie, and it was just perfect. And he's gotten better and better with each movie. He's gotten closer to the Robotnik in the games as they've gone on, and that's now fully realized here in the third movie. We've gotten the classic Robotnik now with the shaved head, the big wild mustache. He's even put a bit of weight on for this movie. I mean, obviously it's clearly a bit of a fat suit, but he's put on the weight. We're seeing the classic Robotnik we know and love from the games now realized, and Jim Carrey is just layering it with his incredibly wild, unhinged performance, which we all love. He looks great in this. I can't wait to see what he does, and I also love the fact that they're teaming him up with Sonic in this movie. I think that's a really cool little twist, because I did kind of think that this third movie was maybe going to go in the direction of Robotnik is going to team up with Shadow, and then we're going to go down that sort of route, which would have been fine, but it would have been a little bit of a rehash of Sonic 2, with Robotnik's relationship with Knuckles. So I think the fact that they're actually going the opposite way and they're having Sonic and Robotnik team up against Shadow, that's a cool little plot twist. I mean, unless they go somewhere else with it, like I'm sure Robotnik is probably going to have some kind of evil plan going on in the background in some way, shape, or form. But even just initially, like him working with Sonic to take on Shadow, I think that's a nice little twist. And of course, I mentioned him before, but let's dive into it. Gerald Robotnik is also in this movie. Now, you couldn't have really done the story of Shadow the Hedgehog without at least including or referencing Gerald Robotnik, because he is the creator of Shadow. He is the one who brought him to life. So the fact that we're actually getting Gerald in this movie, not a huge shock. But what was a shock to me is the fact that he's being played by Jim Carrey. And honestly, that couldn't be more perfect. I honestly don't think they could have gone about this a better way, because I was thinking about Gerald Robotnik a while ago, and I was thinking, who could they get to play him? Who could really, do one up on Jim Carrey? And then, I'm sure the creators of this movie were thinking the same thing, and that is that nobody can one up Jim Carrey. Nobody can do that. So let's just get Jim Carrey. And given the fact that it's Robotnik's grandfather, it makes sense to cast the same guy, because of course they're going to look alike. And I think they just have nailed it. Like, it's perfect. And it makes so much sense why Jim Carrey probably wanted to come back and do this. Not only because I think he enjoys making these movies, but if they said to him, you're actually going to be playing two characters in this movie, I bet he was like, cool. Like, that's cool. I'll do that. And he looks great. The little dynamic between him and Robotnik, I think, is going to be so much fun. Jim Carrey is one of those actors who can just play off of himself. And seeing that on screen is going to be so much fun. I think it's going to be so hilarious. And I think that it's just, again, it makes so much sense. Like, it's something I would have never have thought of, to, like, cast Jim Carrey as Gerald Robotnik as well. But seeing it, it makes so much sense, and I'm so happy that they went with that choice. I also do want to talk a little bit about James Marsden as Tom. We do see him in this trailer, and there's a moment where he seems to be in a little bit of peril. He screams Sonic's name while he's dressed in, like, a gun uniform, and some people have speculated that is Tom working for Gunn? Has he, like, left being a sheriff, and is he now working for Gunn? Or is this like a infiltration undercover thing? I think most likely this is an infiltration mission. I don't think he would work for Gunn, just because I feel like that would kind of go against his character a little bit. But I do think there is a little bit more to this Tom story than what we might initially think. I think there might potentially be a twist in here where someone from Tom's family is connected to Shadow in some way, shape, or form. I don't quite know how they're going to go about it, like whether he was involved in the creation stage or something like that, but when you look at the history of the Green Hills, there was that post-credit scene in Sonic 2. They talk about this, deep hidden file from around 50 years ago. So that would indicate that Shadow was created around 50 years ago. And you could put that on, perhaps that Tom, maybe his father, or maybe his grandfather, if they want to do a parallel with Robotnik, was involved in the Shadow project. You know, there is a line in the first movie where they talk about how there's been a Wachowski protecting Green Hills, you know, for the past, you know, for many, many years. So that would again indicate that Tom's father and grandfather, who were protecting the town as a sheriff, was also potentially involved in this Project Shadow thing, which seemed to have been in Green Hills. So I think there is some kind of connection there between the Wachowskis and Shadow. I'm just not sure exactly what that is yet. And that could lead to Tom's death, because Tom, I really don't want him to die, because I love James Marsden in these movies. I think his character is just delightful. But there is that moment in the trailer where Sonic says, you know, what did you do? And Shadow says, what I had to. And it kind of implies that he has maybe killed Tom in that moment. And as I said, if there is a connection between the Wachowskis and Shadow and his creation, and potentially maybe Maria, it makes sense why Shadow would go after Tom. So there could be a connection there. There could be something. I'm not sure entirely, but there's definitely something there that I think they could play upon, and it could create this kind of really intense, dark moment where Shadow might potentially kill our Donut Lord. But overall, am I excited? Hell yes, I am so in for this movie. Like I say, it was one of my most anticipated movies of the year anyway. But seeing this trailer, especially we're only 4 months out from this looks brilliant. It looks so good. It looks like the perfect third movie for this series. It looks like a perfect escalation. I love the darker tone. I think Shadow being introduced at this point makes a lot of sense. He looks phenomenal. I love what they're doing with Jim Carrey. Again, I just think that this is going to be exactly what I wanted from this franchise and what I wanted from this movie in particular. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see what they do with it. And I love a good trilogy. You know, if this is the final movie, I am happy with that. Hopefully they give it a good ending, but they haven't said it's the final movie, and I do think that if this movie does well, which I think it will, all these movies have done pretty respectfully well, I think that we might get more, and I, for one, am very much here for that. But what did you guys think of the trailer for Sonic 3? Make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you have any fun theories or any speculation to throw about? Join the ramble in the comment section down below. And if you want to see more content just like this, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any uploads from me. And hope to see you guys again next time.